All right, everybody, here we are for episode 81 of Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. It's a bit cold here in Florida this morning, only like 45 degrees. I think it was like 35 degrees overnight. Wayne, how'd you do overnight?
I loved it. It was a little taste of the Midwest back home. So,
Well, and what's great, like you said, a little taste. It's going to be like a high of 65 today, and we're back in the 80s next week. So,
yeah.
Be nice and warm.
Thoughts and prayers for all those in the East that are getting that blizzard, right?
Right, exactly. At least we're not having to deal with that. So sucks for you guys. But you are going to get people in Florida reacting to like this is like the end of the world. But us being from Chicago, we're familiar with shitty weather. Mm-hmm. So all right, this week we are going to talk Adam Sandler films and just his whole kind of catalog in general. We'll talk about the man. How. Like in our generation, Wayne, I think he was this huge comedy star, and then there was a turning point where people started not liking him as much.
There was a definite turn in the quality of his stuff as well there for a while, and even some will say that it's a fraction of what it used to be.
Yes. All right, so we'll get started with early in his career. We won't talk a lot about this one, Wayne, but have you seen Going Overboard? It's his first movie.
I don't recall.
So
my first thoughts on Sandler, though, as I remember thinking back, it's like, wait a minute, this guy was on the Cosby Show, wasn't he?
Was he?
Yeah, he was one of Theo's friends. He played the character.
Right. That's right. I remember that. That's not on his filmography. Here, let's go. I'll click to the actual full page.
And that's not anything we really want to, talk about.
Yeah, we definitely don't talk Cosby Show anymore. But you're right. He was on there.
He was a break dancer, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I remember him being on it, though.
Little nuggets and tidbits there.
Yes. Well, and he got his career. So Going Overboard was basically, it was before SNL. It was when he was a comedian. So along the way, somehow someone thought that he was going to be a movie star, and they were right. They just put him in this really god-awful, shitty movie. I rented it once, and we're talking like maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I was already a fan of his, and I hadn't seen that one. And I think it was at Blockbuster. And I was like, well, I might as well watch it. It is awful. It's interesting to watch, probably just because it's his first kind of starring role. But it's a terrible, terrible movie. I haven't really thought about it since I watched it. I don't recommend people really watching it unless you just want to be like, oh, I never saw this weird movie from 1989 starring Adam Sandler before he was famous. So then, he got SNL around in the early 90s. That, he had roles in Shakes the Clown from Bobcat Goldthwait, Coneheads with Chris Farley and Dan Aykroyd. And then Airheads, of course, with Brendan Fraser, which we talked about that one. He plays the drummer Pip. He was in Mixed Nuts with Steve Martin, which is a movie I liked as a kid, but it's one of those movies that once you grow older, you realize how terribly reviewed it is. And it's like considered like one of the worst remakes of all time. It's like, oh, wow. But it's a movie about a bunch of kind of nutty people crazy people that get together in an apartment and just like weird shit happens.
Looking at his filmography on IMDb here, he was in a ABC After School special listed as drug dealer. I bet that was a top-notch performance on that one.
I bet it was.
You take some of this, and you feel pretty good. That's just how I assume it went down.
I assume. I wish he played it like that. I hope he played it like that. All right, so we were watching him on SNL. And becoming fans of his, just his Opera Man and some of his other skits and
Canteen Boy,
and the Crushed Pepper too. You wanted the pepper? It was 95 when he finally really kind of broke out in the film business, and that was Billy Madison. And Billy Madison was just this grown child. He's an adult child, basically, that has refused to grow up, and his dad wants to consider him to take over the family business. So they go ahead and, he comes up with this plan to go back to school and finish school so that his dad will have faith that he could take over the family business. So it's kind of like grown man in kindergarten, grown man in junior high, grown man back in high school, that type of stuff. If you haven't seen it, I mean, then you're obviously probably not a fan. I would argue that it definitely is for Adam Sandler fans. I think there are better movies that he's done. A lot of people, I think, consider this one their favorite. I'm not one of those. I really like it. I do watch it, over and over again. Norm Macdonald is fantastic in it as one of his good friends.
Yeah.
But this was our first kind of like introduction to what he could do and how he could hold a film audience. So Wayne, what was your first experience with Billy Madison like?
Well, see, the problem here for me is I was one of these like obsessed people who like quoted this and Happy Gilmore incessantly to the point where like, to an annoying, repetitious, like, okay, dude, calm down. So, dude, I can't even tell you the number of times that I have watched this. It's got to be at least into the 50s or more times, because it's one of these back in the day you just put on to one of the first movies I would put on just to like fall asleep to. So,
same. Yeah, I mean, this one is shampoo is better, no conditioner is better.
Nudie magazine day. Nudie magazine day.
That is correct.
That Veronica Vaughn is one nice piece of ace.
So a friend I have, him and her got it on. No, they didn't. Nah, they didn't. Can you imagine what it'd be like if they did? Oh, God.
If peeing your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis.
This you could just hear us quoting and laughing. This movie is so quotable. It's so funny. It's stupid. So like, don't come into this and be like, well, it's dumb. Of course it's dumb. We know it's dumb. But that's kind of the charm of this type of a movie.
One of the best musical score numbers in cinema.
Oh
in my
opinion. God, with the clown.
Veronica, I thank you for beating the shit out of me. Do you have any more gum, more gum, more gum? Do you have any more gum? Sorry, done now.
No, that's okay. I mean, it definitely is super quotable. There isn't much like story-wise going on, but it's so funny. It's the introduction to Steve Buscemi in the Adam Sandler verse.
So am I happy I called that guy?
Yeah. Who plays the guy that he made fun of in high school, that he then when he calls and apologizes, he crosses him off the list. Yeah, it's one of those movies that it's just, you kind of have to see it to get it, I think. But it is, because if I tried to explain it to someone that hasn't seen it, like, they would be like, that sounds really dumb.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
That would be the correct response. We're all now dumber for having heard what you just said. Yeah, so I mean, you could tell obviously that we have a love for this film, so you should definitely seek it out if you're interested in to see where he kind of, his movie star power started. Next, he did, I think, probably one of my favorites, and that's where he started dipping into the sports world, and that was 1996's Happy Gilmore. And Happy Gilmore, he plays a wannabe minor league hockey player who has lots of odd jobs, and it's told in this great montage in the beginning of why he lost all these jobs and stuff. But hockey is his passion. And then he gets cut from the hockey team one last time, and then he is going to prepare for next season. He's getting hit at the baseball cage with the baseballs, and that's where Chubbs notices him, and Chubbs is a golf instructor, and he notices that he's got like a great like kind of slap shot, and so Wait, hold on. Am I screwing this up? No, that's right. He meets him at the. I'm messing everything up. That's later. So scratch that. Rewind it. He meets him at the driving range, where he's seeing that he's driving the ball like super far. So
Only
that's what he's talking.
364 more days till next hockey tryouts. I got to start training.
Yes, exactly. So then after the golf outing, after the driving range, he finds him at the batting cages where he's taking the baseballs to the chest to prepare for hockey. And that's where Chubbs convinces him, because of money, to become a golfer. And so then starts this just kind of hilarious journey of him reluctantly becoming a top golfer in the PGA, basically.
Just tap it in. Give it a little tappy. Tap, tap,
Let's
tap-a-roo.
have it in. Again, very quotable film. I think with this one, the reason I've always liked it more than Billy Madison Wayne is the structure. It feels more like a movie, and that like they actually had like a point to it. Where I feel like Billy Madison was made to showcase his talent. Where this was like, hey, let's write a story that actually makes a little more sense, and keep the same type of comedy in it. And I think this one is always just because structurally has always worked better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Billy Madison is a mess. It's basically just like, we got a shitload of money. Let's go have some fun, and maybe we'll make a movie out of it.
Right, exactly. Kind of his method now.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. Very, very true.
Obviously, I think, these movies, these SNL type movies from back in the day, one of the best things about them was the villains. Tommy Boy, you got Rob Lowe. Black Sheep, you get Gary Busey. This one, you get Shooter McGavin, played by Christopher McDonald.
And the greatest of the villains, in my humble opinion.
It is. And come on, he played it in commercials again. Like, he's turned this thing into kind of he's leaned into it, let's say. Christopher McDonald. So it's like his lifelong character. What he's done so many other roles, so many other things, but what everybody remembers him for is that he's Shooter fucking McGavin. And
Shooter. Well, even during the pandemic, when he and Sandler rehashed it, he did something about as Shooter McGavin. Sandler responded. I was like, oh, I love it.
It was it's amazing. And one of my favorite scenes is the when he breaks the glass. You want to take this outside? I went on the golf course, you idiot. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. What's going on here? Oh, well, you just help me find the rest of this bottle. There's some
over there. And maybe
stay out of my way, or you'll pay. Hey, why don't I go eat some hay? I can lay by the bay.
And then there's the ultimate Bob Barker cameo, where he plays with Bob Barker at the celebrity PGA Pro-Am.
I hate that Bob Barker.
And him and Bob Barker have this great fight. It's fantastic.
The price is wrong, bitch.
Price is wrong, bitch. And then you have oh god, what was the other line I was just thinking of? Well, you have the jackass line, which is from the one character. Yeah, jackass. That I know. That's the other thing with these movies too, Wayne, is their dialogue made it into our regular conversations. And this was at that time where a lot of movies were, I think, where we were very impressionable in our generation, and so a lot of these movies quotes made it into our everyday lingo. And definitely, I've used a lot of the lines from this movie and from Billy Madison in my everyday life. So,
I would say from 15 to 22, it was part of my lexicon, like nobody's business, like way too often quoted. So, right there with you.
Also, lovely. Go ahead.
The alligator scene, obviously. Chubbs, the alligator that got your hand. Well, I got his head. He falls out the window.
He kills Chubbs.
And then, of course, he's sitting there playing. Shut up, Happy. I got my hand back.
I'm gonna dedicate my playing for Chubbs. Screw you! I'm gonna dedicate my playing for Chubbs. Yeah, and Grizzly Adams had a beard.
Grizzly Adams did have a beard. And of course, we should probably talk about the whole grandma scene, which derives the whole golf career. and
Yeah.
Ben Stiller's
Oh
character.
my God, Stiller is fantastic in this, and just kind of a real quick. I'd say extended cameo, I guess, but he plays the guy that runs the old folks' home where the mother's now or the grandmother's now living. And what's the uh
You will go to sleep, or I'll put you to sleep. My fingers hurt.
we're also I want to get it right. It's can I have a warm glass of milk? You have a warm glass of shut the hell up.
You're in my
Yeah.
world now, Grandma.
And when they arrive there, the woman's trying to escape.
The Mista lady.
The air conditioner falls on her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. And then you have the big guy too. I forget the actor's name, but he's the one he shoots in the head with the nail gun. And then he chases down Shooter McGavin and beats him to death.
Yes. He used to play Jaws and James Bond.
And James Bond, yes, correct.
Richard
Kern.
Yeah. Richard
Kern. I think that's right. Sounds right. It's like if I could just click on this in the Wikipedia page.
It's almost like it'll tell us if we click on something, right?
It's weird. Let's see. Alan Covert, of course, as the his caddy, the homeless caddy.
Richard Kiel,
that's it. There he is. Yeah, Richard Kiel is Mr. Larson. Fantastic. Kevin Nealon, of course. Oh my God. Yeah, this Julie Bowen. That was like kind of our introduction to her, I think, in our generation.
Yeah, you know how long it took me to make that connection between her and Modern Family in this movie?
Like, yeah. It took a while, huh?
A long time. I felt rather stupid.
Well, and so what's interesting you'll see is our movie, even our other movie, which is more of a drama, has a tie to Adam Sandler as Julie Bowen is in that film.
Mm-hmm.
So it all comes back to Julie Bowen and Happy Gilmore.
Full circle. Well, when she's walking with the pitchers of beer in the lingerie.
Yeah, that's where he's having the dream, and it's like all white like an angel, and then all of a sudden it turns all rock and roll, and Shooter's there, and she's dressed in black, and yeah, that's some good imagery.
Grandma
sure.
with the kiss mask and the tongue.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Or just, you know what? And we didn't even talk about the fact that how his dad is killed in the beginning of the movie through it with a hockey puck at the game, and it's very just kind of like, oh, then he's dead, and then they just kind of move on. It's very almost like Norm Macdonald like how it happens. And then I went to live with my grandma, and then the kiss makeup. So hey, I know you just were rambling on about these first two movies, but
that's how much these things mean to us, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly, we're just big fans. So then after that, they tried to kind of branch him out and do into other people's stuff. He did Bulletproof with Damon Wayans, a movie I definitely saw in the theaters back in 1996. A movie
You'll always be my bodyguard.
Huh?
You'll always be my bodyguard.
Yes.
And
you know what? It's a dumb action movie, but it's a lot of fun. I really like that buddy comedy kind of scenario, and I think they really worked well together. They had pretty good chemistry as Archie and Keats. Damon Wayans plays like an undercover cop who then ends up arresting him and betrays him, but then they kind of end up falling back into each other again. Then next after that, 98 was pretty big. Definitely two of my favorites, but one I think I would consider this my favorite of the Adam Sandler films, meaning movies that are his movies, not like Uncut Gems or Punch Drunk Love, which are not Adam Sandler films. So The Wedding Singer, I think, is probably my favorite Wayne of the comedies.
Yep.
It's one of those movies, man. It's hilarious. It's heartfelt. It's a rom-com. It kind of has everything in it all at once. So what are your thoughts on Wedding Singer?
Get out of my Van Halen t-shirt before you curse the band and they break up.
I
always think to be Julia Gulia.
Julia Gulia? Yeah. Why is that funny? Never mind. The somebody please kill me.
Somebody kill me, please. I'm on my knees. Pretty please. Kill me.
Oh
I'm so
god.
into it, I'm coughing to death.
Yeah. That's all right.
That's my level of dedication to the wedding
Get it
singer,
out.
folks.
Get it out. I'm the one with the microphone. You listen to every goddamn word I have to say.
Another great Steve Buscemi cameo.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic. Buscemi is amazing. Uh,
All self-taught, no lessons. Thanks, Pops. You are an idiot. This is a good
oh
wedding
god.
singer.
Obviously, Drew Barrymore stars in that one. That was their first pairing. Magical pairing, if you will, because they obviously have very good chemistry. They've worked together, I think, 3 times now.
Right.
So he is a wedding singer. He is dating a girl who then ends up breaking up with him, like the night after, I think, right after after the first wedding we see him.
No,
work.
she doesn't show up to the wedding.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was. So then she shows up the next one later, trying to like reconcile, which I believe that is what's her name from Airheads, isn't it? I think it's the same person, Amy Locane.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Let's see. Well, maybe not. No, I guess I'm wrong.
That was bound to happen eventually, sir. It's okay.
It's very rare, but it does happen. Let's see. Angela Featherstone. That's the actress. So you also get Christine Taylor as Julia's cousin, and she's really funny in it. Alan Covert as the friend who wants to nail her. He does the Michael Jackson phase where he dresses up as Michael Jackson. I always thought that was hilarious.
You're in trouble. You don't even know it. Grade A beef.
Billy Idol as himself. Kevin Nealon.
That whole scene at the end on the airplane. Don't
Yes.
you talk to Billy Idol that way?
Yes. Oh my god, it's amazing. John Lovitz. He plays the guy where they go to buy like at the hall, one of the halls, one of the wedding halls. Robert Smigel, of course. Him and Sandler have been friends for since their SNL days.
Alexis Arquette is Boy George.
Yes, yeah, they're just George, right? That's what they call him.
Yeah,
that's the character name. Yeah, Alexis Arquette is George Stitzer, keyboardist. Yeah, oh my god! And every time it breaks out into when he gets to run the show, he breaks into, "Do you really want to hurt me?" My wife loves that song, by the way. Huge Boy George fan, surprisingly.
Nice. Hey, they're really starting to turn on George. You better get back in there.
You better get back in there. Yes. Oh my god! Yeah, this movie. I mean, this is one of those films. If you've stayed away from this one because it's an Adam Sandler film, like this is a romantic comedy, and I think it plays that very well, and is kind of his first foray into that. And it works. It works really well. This has always been one of my favorites. It's 80s themed, and I'm not the biggest 80s fan. I know Sandler is. That's I'm sure why they went this route, but it's hilarious from start to finish. Everybody is fantastic in this movie. Drew Barrymore is lovely, and Adam Sandler is extremely funny in it, and the comedy is just amazing. So, he did Dirty Work where he played Satan. That was Norm Macdonald's film, directed by Bob Saget. Then he did The Waterboy, which I think has a lot of relation to one of the movies we're going to talk about today. I really like The Waterboy. It's very funny. I know it brings into question of people with disabilities and does he really have a disability or is he just the way he is, that type of thing. I get that. It's part of Sandler's comedy that he plays characters that seem like they have disabilities, so I don't know if his intention was always to be that, but I still like The Waterboy. I still think it's a very funny movie. It's just silly, but also very quotable as well. Lawrence Taylor.
I definitely think if we want to do really do a character dive on Bobby Boucher, yes. I definitely think there's some delays and some shortcomings there, and I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with the character or anything, because it's not like they're making they're making fun of the dickheads on the team are making fun of him and whatnot.
Yeah, I would say that the characters that make fun of him are usually shown to be the villains of the movie or the bad guys of the movie, where you're not supposed to like them. There are some of them that do earlier that then come around to him, so then they're not as mean to him anymore. They're not mean to him anymore. But you have Peter Dante, who plays the quarterback, who's basically a dick to him like almost the entire movie, until I think like the very end.
I got a wooden spoon.
Rob Schneider in probably one of his most quotable roles.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it. Which I don't know if it's like some sort of Cajun accent. I'm not quite sure what he's doing there.
Well, and then you got the coach. I forget what his name is.
Oh yeah,
Red Bow U? No, wait, no, that's the
Clark,
bad guy, right?
He's in all his movies too, or he was for a long time.
Clark, no, not Clark. Greg Clark.
No, not Greg Clark. It is. Hold on, Blake Clark.
Blake
Clark. Yeah, he's really funny as because he's supposed to be like from like New Orleans.
Farmer Frank. Well, they all are, right? Because there's southeast central Louisiana tax.
Yeah, that's where he's supposed to. And of course, you got the great Henry Winkler. Water sucks. It really, really sucks.
Mr. Coach Klein. Coach Klein.
I think my favorite is the introduction to him, and it's so subtle, but he's watching the game film, and it's and we fumble it, and then they pick it up. They have enough time to dust it off and run it in for a touchdown. Like just the delivery on it, just like he's over it, like, but he's still gonna be coaching. The whole Roy Orbison tattoo. My mama told me not to get a Roy Orbison tattoo on my ass.
You know, that's the best. That's one of the brilliant things that I always love about Sandler is like he will always cast his pals, if you will, and things. And you know, sometimes people like knock him for that. It's like, oh, great, let's just get all the gang back together. And I don't know. I just think there's something admirable about it. Admirable. There's something about a sea captain. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's always good for that. It's even better when his friends include Chris Rock and Steve Buscemi, because I consider them to be, other kind of movie stars as well, in their own right. So it's fun that he can get those type of people, especially someone like Buscemi, who's like, an Academy Award nominated actor, very well respected in the field. The fact that he keeps coming back for these movies, I think, is pretty funny. So then after Water, I mean, he was on a run for a while here. So you had, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Wedding Singer, The Waterboy, Big Daddy, which is just easily one of my favorites.
I wipe my own ass.
Because it's very like sentimental. It's very emotional. It's funny. Just kind of everything about it really works. Again, Steve Buscemi. You have Rob Schneider as the delivery man.
He's got a 5-year plan. What is it? Don't die?
Maybe it's a 10-year plan. When he sees him at the end, also working at Hooters. And then you have, Schneider with the when they're playing Go Fish, or I don't know if it's Go Fish. They're playing like poker, and he's like, flips over the cards. Julian flips over the cards. I win. What do you mean you win? I've got a better hand. No, it's called I win. So I win. It's bullshit. There should be the same rules for everybody.
Hip hop Annapolis. You give them all the easy ones.
They go together like a lamb or tuna fish.
Maybe you prefer spaghetti and meatball?
Is that a better analogy for you? Yeah, because this is America, pal. This episode is going to be so random of just us saying random Adam Sandler quotes. And people
that was to be expected.
Yes, but that being said, Big Daddy, I think, is, again, a really well-made movie and a very, very good, kind of like peak Sandler. And like, this is what you kind of expected from him at that time. He had a small part in Deuce Bigalow. Another funny voice, weird voice in Little Nicky. This movie is strange, but it's fun.
Little Nicky, that was the first one that was kind of like, well, people were kind of on the fence about, I
Yeah,
think.
well, we were getting older too. We were what, like, I was a junior, you were a senior in high school, so at the same time I was enjoying something like Little Nicky, I was appreciating something like American Beauty. So my tastes were starting to, I think, grow a little bit, and I still like held on to Little Nicky as like this gem just because it was kind of like the last of my Adam Sandler films of that time period. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, it's not a good movie, but it's fun. It's got some funny moments. I haven't seen it in such a long time, so I can't completely comment on it.
Right. I'm from the South, the deep South.
But see, you do quotes and then I laugh.
Well, you gotta talk out of the side of your mouth.
And that other people hated that voice. I forget Patricia Arquette was the love interest in that one.
Yeah.
There is a great scene where you get Reese Witherspoon as his mom and Angel in Heaven. His dad is Lucifer, played by Harvey Keitel. And then in Heaven, his mom is dating Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. So
exactly.
That's a great tie-in, I think.
Good callback.
2001.
Don't think I forgot how crazy you get after a few daiquiris.
Yes.
Oh, God.
He wasn't like working like a ton at this time. I mean, Joe Dirt and the Animal, he had bit parts in. And Joe Dirt, I was even in Joe Dirt. He may have just been producer on that one. Yeah, he was just producer on Joe Dirt. But then he had a bit part in the Animal where he basically plays the Rob Schneider character of version of the character from The Waterboy, which I thought was funny, even though I didn't care for that movie that much. And then you get 2002 is where you get serious Sandler for the first time, really. And you get
it was very much a mixed reaction. People were really like, "Wow, this is great," or most like a lot of people that I unfortunately were like, "What is this?"
Yeah, I loved it. I'm a big Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I was a fan of Boogie Nights, a fan of Magnolia. So when I heard he had a movie coming out with Adam Sandler, I was like, "Well, what's this going to be?" It is just a wild movie, kind of like just like one crazy night of a movie, essentially, because most of it takes place like in one like date. And there's this, oh my god, well, my favorite scene is with him and Philip Seymour Hoffman at the end of the movie, where they're threatening to beat each other up, but Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, you could tell, is a little bit more scared than Adam Sandler's character. So like he's screaming at him, but like screaming at him that everything's fine. that like, all right, fine, I am going to do that, but you better leave. There's just that kind of mentality. It's such a weird movie, but it's really good. I really like it. I heard something interesting recently because Paul Thomas Anderson is a guy who doesn't really make movies for everybody. He doesn't make a lot of commercial movies. And they had talked to him, but he's a big fan of comedy. He's a big fan of SNL. His wife is Maya Rudolph from SNL. And so he's a big fan of that style of comedy. And so he, in his own mind, when he cast Adam Sandler, that was him like making a mainstream movie. But because he's Paul Thomas Anderson, he couldn't make a mainstream movie. Like it's hard for him to do. And so he just made his own movie with Adam Sandler in it. And it just became this weird kind of concoction of both Adam Sandler's persona, where you get that screaming, yelling that he does in The Wedding Singer, but it's more demented and not as funny, or it's funny in a much darker way. There's also a great scene too that was really well edited and put together where his date is getting assaulted and he grabs this crowbar and in like 15 seconds like takes out all the bad. It's just a really well edited, lots of great beats in that one scene. That just always stuck with me. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but that scene I remember like I just watched it. Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies. It's really an interesting watch. I really recommend. This is a movie where people go like, "Oh, I don't like Adam Sandler movies." I'm like, "Well, watch Punch Drunk Love," because it's not an Adam Sandler movie, and you kind of get a different side of him, I think, which we have seen since then.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going kind of long here, so we're gonna speed up a little bit here.
Right.
Mr. Deeds, I think to me, Mr. Deeds Wayne was like the last like of his like shitty movies that I thought that I really enjoyed. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you felt the same way.
Yeah.
There were a couple other ones afterwards, but obviously, like when we get to like 51st Dates. So I guess there was Mr. Deeds and then 51st Dates. I guess for some reason I feel like Mr. Deeds and 51st Dates were so far apart, but they're as I'm looking here, they're only 2 years apart. But I feel like they were so far apart, I think, because he had done Punch Drunk Love in between, and that just seemed like such a different movie that they seemed like they were made in different time periods. You know what I mean? Like it just
Yeah.
Mr. Deeds and 51st Dates really felt like two different films.
Well, see, Anger Management with Jack Nicholson was one that I really enjoyed.
Mm. And maybe that's what I'm thinking too, is that the style of movie changed from Mr. Deeds to Anger Management, because Anger Management feels more like 51st Dates. Like, and I'm just talking like style of it, like the way it looks. Like maybe it's
Ah,
just Mr. Deeds still felt like a 1990s Adam Sandler film, where
yeah.
Anger
Okay.
Management and 51st Dates feel like an early to mid 2000s. And I guess that's just a different sheen to it, it just looks different. Um, so maybe that's where I've always kind of drawn that. So anger management. Well, let's talk about anger management then. I haven't not seen that in a long time. But the pairing, I remember the pairing of him and Jack Nicholson was pretty incredible.
For sure. Absolutely. When he's making him breakfast, I said over easy, and throws the plate at Adam Sandler's head. Jack Nicholson, I'm talking about, of course.
Yes.
Like, you are a lunatic.
And that's the premise, right? He gets sentenced to anger management because of his own anger, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so then Jack Nicholson is like his therapist, who has a weird way of like working him through his anger management, which is to scream and yell at him all the time.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I think he's on an airplane, and there's the big security guard that says, calm down, sir. I'm calm. And he raises his voice, and then he gets tased.
Yes.
And then there's the dramatic ending at Yankee Stadium, I believe.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it too. Some of these movies, like Big Daddy, had a very dramatic ending. Mr. Deeds had a dramatic ending, so you could tell he was starting to mature a little bit. I would argue too, 51st Dates has a very kind of like sobering ending.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good movie. It's a really solid flick. It's a rom com, but it's also kind of a love story, really, when you look at 51st Dates, because it does show you afterwards. Like the you don't usually get to see that in a rom com. In 51st Dates, you get that image of them on the boat and him showing her the videotape every morning when she wakes up.
Right. A lot of depth to it, too. Because, like, it's like, Henry Roth, why didn't you tell me you're a secret agent and all this stuff? And then you find out what happened to Drew Barrymore's character. It's like, oh, wow. Okay. It makes you feel something other than just ha 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 ha,
Yeah, for sure. It really is. It's a well-made movie, I think, and I really like that movie a lot. And I think I want to say that's become one of his like overall favorites from people. I feel like even like my wife likes that one, and she hates Adam Sandler, so
Right.
that's one that she could watch. And then you get 2004, another kind of drama. You get Spanglish, which kind of I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember liking it when it came out. James L. Brooks, director of As Good as It Gets and creator of
Yeah.
The Simpsons.
That's one of those that's not funny. Like, it's not as
It's really not.
serious as Punch Drunk Love, but it's definitely different,
It's more of a drama than a comedy, but there are some funny moments in it. I think the big thing is a lot of the comedy doesn't come from him in that one.
Right.
It's more just like situational comedy, where the character itself is very kind of like down and depressed, and
He's also more of a supporting actor in this one, if you think about it, because it's really
it's
the maid
it's
and
more
her
of an
daughter's story.
ensemble. Yeah, it's definitely an ensemble, because you're right. It's about the kid and her mom, Paz Vega, and who's the little girl that they don't for some reason don't mention in the top part. Let's see, Amy Garcia. Oh, she was the adult. Shelby Bruce is the one that is in most of the movie. So Amy Garcia from Dexter, I didn't realize that was the narrator.
Yep.
So I did not know that. So yeah, I mean, Spanglish is another one that I think I would recommend as a not typical Adam Sandler movie. The Longest Yard, another good football one. We've talked about this one numerous times, so we don't need to dive into it. But that's another
Yeah.
one where you get a lot of great Adam Sandler cast members: Chris Rock, Rob Schneider. He started working with a lot of wrestlers around this time, so they're all in the movie. Dan Patrick was around this time. He was one of the cops that pulled him over, and Dan Patrick has been basically in all of his movies like ever since. They produced again Deuce Bigelow, the sequel where he was in. Grandma's Boy produced Benchwarmers. Wayne, we've kind of talked about this one before, where Benchwarmers is like we wish Farley was still alive because they were all supposed to be in it, and it just ended up being Spade and Schneider and the dude from Napoleon Dynamite and Nick Swardson.
Yep.
But that's one of those ones, like, I enjoy that movie for what it is, but it's like, it's definitely a what could have been film.
Yes.
You get Schneider stepping in for in the Sandler role, and then I think Spade probably playing the same role that Spade would have played, but you would have had probably Farley play the brother, maybe. Or not the brother, because they're not brothers. Farley would probably play the Napoleon Dynamite guy's role, John Heater's role.
Yeah.
So that was like just one of those, like, yeah, it was okay, but it was like definitely what it could have been better. Click, what do you think of Click?
I liked Click a lot, especially like again, this is one of they sneak extra feels in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's it's an Adam Sandler comedy coming out. All right, but the message about family and like when he's in the future when he's dying in the street, it's like, oh gosh, this is a little bit emotional here.
Yeah, it's definitely like It's a Wonderful Life, but
yes,
with Adam
exactly.
Or a Family Man with Nick Cage, which is basically It's a Wonderful Life.
It's not really in my top 10, but it's still something that I wouldn't say no to if somebody wanted to put it on.
Yeah, I hear
However,
you.
I do want to talk about 2007's Reign Over Me.
Yes, so Reign Over Me, starring him and Don Cheadle, is a movie about a person who lost their family. Was it their family in 9/11?
Yes, his wife and kids.
So Mike Binder, the comedian and sometimes director and actor, directed the film, starring Sandler, Cheadle, J.D. Pinkett Smith, Liv Tyler, Saffron Burrows, Donald Sutherland, Mike Binder. It's a really good drama, man. It's depressing.
And it's really so forgotten too. I can't, when I like bring it up to people, they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You don't know about this movie? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, it wasn't that well received. I remember when it was coming out, they were thinking that maybe he would get an Oscar nomination for it because it's such a dramatic role. But the movie itself, like critically, it just wasn't as well received as they were hoping. So I think it kind of just at the time it faded away. So I'm not too surprised that people have forgotten about it. I really like this movie a lot. It's very emotional, very sad.
I remember people were upset because if they felt like they were trying to profit off of the 9/11 thing, or
every time a movie came out about I don't remember them saying that about freaking Vietnam movies, but every time something came out about 9/11, they always brought that up. Like, oh, is it too soon? I'm like, what's too soon? I mean, to me, the way I look at it is, if you don't want to watch it, then just don't watch it. It doesn't mean that it's too soon. Because for people like us that didn't necessarily, like, we lived through it, but we didn't lose. So, like, if you lost somebody during 9/11, sure, it's probably too soon. But if you didn't, and you're just dealing with the emotional aftermath of your country being attacked, I don't know that it's necessarily too soon, especially since this was 6 years, and before this we had World Trade Center and United 93 come out. So this is kind of really late to the party if you look at those two movies.
Agreed.
But yeah, anytime, still, I think someone mentions 9/11, you're like, oh god, like I can't believe they're doing a subject on this, and it's like, man, like, we have to be able to talk about our past. That's how movies are made. Like, a lot of movies touch on reality, and 9/11 was a big one for America. So it's gonna be in movies, I think, probably until now and forever. So yeah, definitely just if it triggers you, don't watch it. If that's something, then you know ahead of time, like this is a movie about 9/11. Unlike that stupid Robert Pattinson movie where you didn't know it was about 9/11 until the very end of the movie. I could see that triggering people in the wrong way.
Yeah, that was what I don't even remember what the name of that one is, but it was like
Remember
really.
Me. Yeah, I remember. I remember that one. Yeah, that was one. Yeah, you could argue that was trying to like shock you in a way that was probably not ideal. Where this movie going in, you know what it's about already. Like if you watch the trailer, you know it's about post 9/11.
Yep.
I mean, shit, man. Rescue Me was an amazing show, and that was all about post 9/11 stuff, and that was right
I
around.
loved Rescue Me. Don't even get me
So,
started because
yeah.
this will get a lot longer of a show.
Yeah, we're already long, and we're just talking about Adam Sandler right now. So yeah, so it's basically about Don Cheadle play. Is he a therapist or is he just like a friend of his? I can't remember.
He was just a friend from college, I think, and because I remember
That's
one
what
of
it
the
was.
things that I remember
He
after they
sees him
reconnect.
he sees him in the street looking like a homeless man. And then he decides that he wants to reconnect once he finds out what happened to him and that his family died on 9/11. Then he becomes more invested.
Right. And then he freaks out and then he feels bad. So he tries to give him Don Cheadle $1 million.
Yeah.
Was it the Wayne Knight character? Or, no, not Wayne Knight. The lawyer.
Yeah, because he has money, right? Like that's.
I'm not giving you the $1 million. Like, what are you talking about? He wants to give you $2 million or whatever it was. Like, I just remember that scene, and he just rides the scooter around town, just being kind of a, obviously a broken human being.
Yeah, like he's not homeless, he's not poor, he just can't live anymore, basically.
Yeah.
Which is so. What's crazy is you get a really important film like that, I think, and then you get I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, which has not aged well. Starring him and Kevin James. And it's about two men who pretend to be gay to get insurance through the government. There's a lot wrong with this movie. I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't remember liking it much when it came out in the first place. But now that I think back on it, I'm just like, Jesus, like this movie was probably not. It's probably a good thing we don't really talk about it anymore.
I just remember the Jessica Biel in her underwear scene and
that's like, yeah. Well, and it's because he's pretending to be gay, so it's okay that he's there around her. Yeah, it was a very just weird movie.
Yeah. And then follow that up.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Following up with "Don't Mess with the Zohan." I remember this being a goofy stupid and not very good.
Yeah, this is kind of where he started to go down, I would say. And he was doing then he did Bedtime Stories, which is more family friendly, but that was pretty terrible.
Yeah.
I like Funny People. I know a lot of people don't. It's very dramatic for a comedy, but that's Apatow.
Yep. And then we get Grownups.
And then we get Grownups, which I think it's funny because I think Grownups has a lot of fans, and I'm a fan.
Yep.
And it's a good movie.
I very much love this movie.
But it's also the start of him making just like god awful, terrible films. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of bad movies that come after Grownups that follow the Grownups formula of I'm just going to take a bunch of money, we're going to produce a movie in a nice place, and I'm going to hire all my friends. Yep. And yes, he's done this through his career, but I feel like they were at least spending time on the script and making sure the jokes were funny. And I feel like
after Grownups, I kind of feel like they got on locations like, all right, how are we going to do this? And they're all sitting around and, it'd be funny if I did this.
Right, exactly. And it never really worked after that. Just go with it. Just not very good. Jack and Jill, I still have refused to see.
Yeah. How about That's My Boy, though?
Well, That's My Boy is actually really good. I actually really like. I hate. Yeah. Okay, so do you want to go back and talk about Grownups real quick or no?
No, it's fine. Everybody should know about Grownups. It's nothing. It's great,
but great cast. That's My Boy is one of those movies. Like I watched this movie, I hated it. Hated this movie when I first saw it. I was like, "What is this shit?" And then, so I had Stars at the time and cable still. It was on Stars. a lot, and I watched it a lot, and I really started to like it after like the third time. I couldn't
Hmm.
stop laughing. It's it's such a bad movie, but it's so funny. It oh my god. I think if you're gonna be bad, at least be bad in a hard R rating, and that's what this movie does. So what are your thoughts on That's My Boy Wayne?
Oh, I enjoyed it. This is like one of those ones that surprised me because we're in peak bad Sandler mode
Yep.
now, and this is like, oh, wait a minute, and then obviously, I'm trying to jump ahead already. I'm looking at IMDb. I'm like, oh yeah, this came out the same year. Blah blah blah. But yeah, no, that's my boy's really good. Just the scumbag father, reemergence and reconnecting type thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those movies that I like I said, I didn't like it the first time, and now I've seen it a bunch after, and I really I really do enjoy it and quite recommend it. Um so Grownups 2 is I watched like 20 minutes of that movie and I shut it off. I was not a fan. Blended I never saw. I heard was terrible.
Yeah.
Then he did two dramatic ones, Men, Women, and Children, the Cobbler, which I haven't seen, but I heard those were actually really bad. One was by Jason Reitman, and the other one was by Tom McCarthy, who Tom McCarthy has barely made a bad movie, but apparently that's the one.
The Hotel Transylvania movies, the animated films, are pretty funny though, and
Those
very
are good. Yeah,
so.
We should mention too. That's My Boy was the same year the first Hotel Transylvania came out, and the fourth one just came out a couple weeks ago. So
Right. I have not seen that one yet, but I'll get around to it, I'm sure. But yeah,
yeah,
this
the
is
reason
all
I didn't
leading
put it
up.
on here to review is just because I've only seen like the third one, I think. So
Yeah.
like, I don't feel like I should review a movie fourth movie of a franchise that I don't watch. So
Yeah. But that's leading up to 2015's The Ridiculous Six. I think the
well, and
zero rating.
Pixels and Ridiculous Six in the same year. Ugh.
Oh, yeah, I skipped over Pixels.
as you should have,
Yeah.
as they should have. Yeah, that was a rough year. Ridiculous Six to me is his worst movie ever made.
Yep.
Worst movie ever made. Not funny. Too many racial stereotypes. Just and not in a clever way like Mel Brooks, because that's what they were going for. You could tell they watched Blazing Saddles and were like, "Hey, we could do that,"
Yeah.
but they're not smart enough to do that. So
No, not at all.
Yeah. I mean, it was the introduction. We're going to talk about him later. It's the introduction of Taylor Lautner into the Adam Sandler verse. It was not a good movie. Same year as Hotel Transylvania 2, so at least he had something good that year. But yeah, Pixels and Ridiculous Six, not good. And then he did in 16, he did The Do-Over, which I actually thought was okay. It didn't get very great reviews, but I liked it for what it was. Did you ever see that one, Wayne?
I'm trying to remember.
It's the one with
It
him and
doesn't ring a
Spade.
bell.
Yeah, like Spade is just like a normal dude, and Sandler's like this international spy, kind of, maybe, but not really.
Yeah. I'm looking at the movie picture, the poster. I know I saw it, but it didn't leave any real impression on me. So I guess it was okay because I didn't hate it like some of his other
Well, yeah,
work.
you don't remember it with vitriol, but you don't remember it as at all. So it sounds like it.
It's like I remember all the buzz about Sandy Wexler, and I was not a fan of that one.
I haven't seen it because I heard how awful it was.
Right.
He did the Meyerowitz stories, a new one selected, which is actually really, really good with him and Ben Stiller, directed by Noah Baumbach. That is a Netflix original. That's not a typical Adam Sandler film. The Week of with Chris Rock on Netflix. That one I didn't hate either. I thought that was decent. Hotel Transylvania 3. Murder Mystery, probably his best Netflix movie, right, Wayne? I would say.
Yes, with Jennifer Aniston, very, very, very entertaining. Surprisingly so.
We're getting a sequel out of that one. And then you come up to Uncut Gems.
Mm-hmm.
And Uncut Gems is just this weird, like indie film, crazy energy. It's about a bookie, jewelry maker who gets in trouble with the bookies, and or a jeweler, not a jewelry maker necessarily, but a jeweler who gets in trouble with bookies and gambling, and it's I really love this movie, but I'm a huge fan of the directors, the Safdie brothers, Josh and Benny.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen their other movies, I do recommend them as well. If you liked Uncut Gems, they did Good Time with Robert Pattinson. There's another indie one that they did too. That it's about a drug addict that actually stars the recovering drug addict that the movie's about, which I thought was a very interesting casting choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Uncut Gems, man. It's a wild ride. It's definitely a different Sandler performance than you're used to. You do get to see him fully naked in this one, and stuffed in the back of a trunk. So just lots of like kind of different things that you don't get out of him. The cheesy, the goatee, the voice, and it's not like like a little Nicky voice. Like it's a voice. It's a choice. I would equate it to something like what Most Def did in 16 Blocks, if people remember that movie, because people weren't fans of his voice in that one. I didn't mind it, and I would say the same with Sandler and Uncut Gems. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's
But
just
then
he's just
again,
a guy. He plays a real
yeah,
person, and not really a real person, but he feels like a real person.
you
And
go from Uncut Gems to Hubie Halloween, and it's just like, why?
and that was just because the joke was when he did Uncut Gems, he made the joke that if he didn't get an Oscar nomination, he was going to make the worst movie ever. And then Hubie Halloween came out, and all the critics were, I think he followed through.
Mm-hmm.
So, because he did not get an Oscar nomination, like a lot of people thought he should have, and the movie should have, I think, been considered, and it was not. Um, Hubie Halloween we reviewed on the show. It's not good. The three of us, it was you, me, and Riley that talked about it. Riley, not an Adam Sandler fan, he also did not like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a terrible, terrible movie. Some people like it. People, and that's just it. People like some of these movies we're dissing that are terrible, and that's fine. You can like these movies. Just understand they weren't for us. We didn't like them. We didn't care for them. But that's it. So, I mean, it leaves us, he's got Spaceman, Hustle, and Murder Mystery 2 on the docket. Those are the next three on here. And he's going to star in all of those. I believe Spaceman is for Netflix. That's the one that they cast Carey Mulligan coming off of her Oscar nomination, Paul Dano, Kuno Nayar, and Isabella Rossellini. So, like, that's a pretty epic cast for, I think, what's supposed to be a comedy. So, we'll see. Even though it does say drama. So, science fiction drama film directed by Johan Rennick. So there you go. That could be an interesting one, brought to a Netflix via Sandler's brand, but not a typical Adam Sandler movie because he is producer on that one. That will be out later this year. Hustle will be next year, and I think Murder Mystery 2 will be by the end of this year or next year. Hustle, an American sports drama. That one's with Adam Sandler, Queen Latifah, Ben Foster, and Robert Duvall. So another great cast on that one, produced by LeBron James and Adam Sandler. So maybe he's changing. Maybe he's going down a different path. I don't know. We'll see what the future holds for Mr. Sandler, the Sandman. With that,
We'll always have the mid-90s, sir.
Yes, we will. We'll always have Happy Gilmore and Wedding Singer, and a few others. Let's get on to our next segment, though. That's our reviews
of the week.
And we are going to start off with the Adam Sandler produced Home Team, directed by Charles and Daniel Kinane, written by Chris Titone and Keith Blum, starring Kevin James, Taylor Lautner, Rob Schneider, Jackie Sandler, and Tate Bloom. This is the somewhat true story of Sean Payton during his year off from the Saints when he was suspended for Bountygate, rightfully so, in my opinion.
Being a scumbag.
He returned to Texas, where his wife and son were living with her new boyfriend, played by Rob Schneider. His son plays football. I believe his name is Connor Payton. And the football team is awful. And so he kind of, Kevin James plays Sean Payton. I know you're like, oh, they don't look anything alike, and they don't, and you're right. And it is kind of strange because of how different they are. They didn't even make an attempt to make him look like him, where I would argue something like Being the Ricardos, they at least attempt to make Nicole Kidman look like Lucy. This, right. Not so much. It's basically just like, it's like almost like a play if you have to look at it. Like, that's how Kevin James became Sean Payton. Like, he just kind of showed up and like, hey, I'm Sean Payton now. and that was it. So we get very little about Bounty Gate. They do talk about it some, um, but not. It's not a drama. It's a sports comedy film in the way of like Little Giants, Bad News Bears. It fits well with Waterboy and The Longest Yard, I think, in the Happy Madison sports universe. And it's not great by any stretch, I think, Wayne, but I did enjoy this movie. Um, I think like sports films in general, like they don't have to do a lot to be entertaining, and this one did. Just the fact that you have the whole father-son relationship and where it's kind of strained, and then you have this big time head coach sleeping in some sort of shitty hotel. So there's a lot going on. I think that's entertainment value to this movie. So what were your initial thoughts with this film?
Well, I am not a Kevin James fan, so I went into it kind of like, oh boy, grumbly, grumbly, roared, roared, roared. It was okay. There was nothing spectacular about it. I would have liked them to have at least touched a little bit more on the Bounty Gate and why he suspended and all that. I guess they did all right, but it's just I mean, one of my favorite comedians is Lavelle Crawford, Gus the bus driver, so nice to see him.
Yeah, he was funny. I also like the other assistant coach was funny. It's definitely not a laugh out loud, typical Adam Sandler, Kevin James type comedy. I also am not a huge fan of Kevin James. I did like him playing a Nazi in Becky in 2020. But in this particular movie, I think he does all right. He plays the straight guy okay. Like, he doesn't have to be funny. He does have some witty lines here and there. It was interesting seeing Schneider kind of play off character. He was very more reserved than he normally is, which is interesting because a lot of times he'll play the very outrageous characters. This one, he was not so outrageous, which I was okay with. Taylor Lautner, I thought was okay. Overall, it was just one of those movies. Like, it wasn't terrible, but it was just like, I don't know that I'll probably ever watch it again. But
I can tell you that I will not. So,
but I thought it was okay. Like, I would say, well, before I get into the rating too, we'll talk about. Now what's happened recently is Adam Sandler isn't in all these movies anymore, but he's putting his family in them. So I'm still not quite sure how I feel about that, because this one has his wife again. She's one of the main characters.
And one of the daughters plays a small role, if I remember correctly. His
daughter plays the role that the kicker is into, the girl that the kicker is into. And then you have his nephew plays the guy that works at the hotel. And he was in Murder Mystery? No, he was in another one, I think, that just Sandler produced. So I don't know if I like that, I guess, but at least with his nephew is like a comedian, so he is like in the business. I know Sandler's wife really isn't in the business.
She was in a few minor very supporting roles.
Who, his wife?
Yeah, Jackie.
Yeah, she's been more in them lately. Yeah. And they mostly been the movies without him.
Yeah.
I think one of the movies she was in was where she played like his she played his a wife to one of his friends, I think. But it must have been like, was it Murder Mystery? I'm trying to remember.
She was in Sandy Wexler.
Hubie Halloween.
6. She was in Pixels. She was in Grownups 2.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Paul Blart.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm thinking Hubie Halloween, where she played the wife of one of the other main characters.
Well, she was in That's My Boy, The Zookeeper.
Yeah.
So it seems like after she was in 50 First Dates. So, okay, hang on now. She's actually she was in, her first movie she was in was Big Daddy. Then she was in Deuce Bigalow. She was in Little Nicky. She was a voice in 8 Crazy Nights. The Duplex, 50 First Dates, Benchwarmer. So yeah, she basically was riding his coattails until they got married in 2012, I think it was. Okay. So I don't know when they got together, but it seems like things line up really well. And again, that's cool. Hey, support your wife, give her work, whatever.
She's
No
not
judge
very
here.
good.
Hell, if he wants to marry me, I'd be willing to be in some movies.
I guess it's kind of like the whole Rob Zombie thing, where it's like your wife's just not that good of an actress that you keep giving her all these roles, and I think that's kind of what I feel like when I see her now. She was better in this than she's been in most of the things she's been in,
Right.
but she's still not good. Now it's a Happy Madison movie, so acting is a relative term, I guess.
Acting.
Yeah, I would say I would rate this one a 6 out of 10. I would say it's worth a watch maybe once through, especially if you're going to watch it with your kids. If you don't have kids, I don't know, probably don't watch it. It's not really worth your time as much.
I'll go 6-2. I didn't think about watching it with the kids aspect of it, so
yeah, I think definitely that is something that it would be enjoyable if you have children who like sports movies. My kid does not, so. All right, so the next one up, Wayne. This one, I wanted to talk about this one a little bit of how I watched this one because I didn't know anything about this film. And I just knew it was coming out because we do, when I do the list of movies and stuff, a lot of times I'll know I've heard of the film. I hadn't seen a trailer for this movie. I just knew it was a new HBO Max movie. It starred Jenna Ortega, who is in the new Scream movie. She was in Instant Family with Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne. So I was familiar with her. I'm like, okay, new movie. It would be like a coming of age story. And wow, I was wrong. This movie is an emotional fucking roller coaster.
Oh yeah, it makes you feel, man.
Yeah, it makes you feel things. That's for sure. It starts. So you're she's texting with her friend, and they're making fun of this girl in the bathroom who's getting putting on makeup for the school photo day, and then all of a sudden you hear something. And we're gonna. If you don't want to know what the movie's about, stop listening because
yeah.
But I want to tell people what it's about too, though, because I know these type of movies can trigger people. So I don't want people to listen to us and then go watch it and be like, "Oh wow!" Like they didn't tell me that it's what this is about.
Yeah.
So they're in the bathroom and then you hear something. You're like, "Wait, what was that?" And then you keep hearing it, and I'm like, "Oh fuck! This is a school shooting movie."
Yep.
I literally had no idea. My wife had just asked me what this movie was about. I was like, "Oh, it's these two girls who are friends," and then this shit happens, and I was like, "Holy fuck!" Like this movie just got real. And then it becomes this dramatic aftermath of a school shooting and the people that survive and the people that live through this. And it's really well put together. It's really well made. It's really well acted. It's very much it's not like an after school special type of like, school shooting movie. It's really hits home, I think, at the PTSD of it all and everything that comes afterwards and how I can imagine people feeling after they've been through this type of situation. It's definitely hard to watch at times. There are some really emotional scenes. There are some really comical scenes as well, or some funny lines and stuff. The levity of the whole thing, which I think you need in a movie like this. You need some levity. But it is definitely a hard watch. So Wayne, I'll let you talk on it a little bit.
No, it's again, I was like you, I didn't know exactly what was happening or what it was about. So when it all started going down and they did a really nice job capturing the emotions and the fear. Especially, I appreciated how Quentin's character, when he comes rushing into, the hiding spot, if you will, and just everything that went on with his character. I'm not going to talk in any real detail because I do want people to watch this and experience it the same way we did. Just did a really nice job encapsulating the feelings and then the aftermath of it.
It felt like how it should go. You're going to have some kids who move on, some kids who turn it into something positive, some kids who can't move on, and that's
right.
That's what it's about, and it really is just kind of a gut punch. Really nice performances too from Julie Bowen and John Ortiz, who played the fathers or the
Yeah.
fathers. Wow, the parents of Jenna Ortega and her sister,
Yeah.
um, played by, let me see, Lumi Pollock plays the Amelia, the young sister.
I will
Niles
say
Fish
that
is Quentin. Go ahead.
for, for me, when I saw Shailene Woodley, I was kind of like, go make your boyfriend get vaxxed. Get out of here. Teach him to tell the
Yes,
truth.
yes, exactly.
But if
She's
anybody
only
who's
in a few
listening,
scenes though. Yeah.
yeah, if anybody who's listening is curious, go to hell, Aaron Rodgers. Sorry, not sorry.
I like this movie, but also fuck Aaron Rodgers. Um,
When I saw when I saw her, I'm like, oh, fuck Aaron Rodgers,
uh, Maddie
which I'm
Ziegler
sure
is in
she
this.
does on a regular basis. Hey,
I'm
it's
sure
cool,
she does.
whatever.
Maddie Ziegler is in this. She plays the other girl in the bathroom with Jenna Ortega's character Veda. She plays Mia, and
Mm-hmm.
Mia is a rich kid whose parents are out of the country, and when this happens, and don't seem to come back at all while she's dealing with this emotional trauma. Um, Maddie Ziegler, if people don't know her, she's the girl that dances in the Sia videos. They
Mm-hmm.
do. I thought it was interesting they cast a real dancer, but they only show her dancing through a cell phone. We never actually like see her dance, like on the big screen, essentially.
Right.
Um, which I just like, why cast I guess maybe she's just trying to get into regular acting, so maybe that's why she didn't want to, do the dancing on the big screen. I guess I don't know. But I thought she was decent. She held her own. I think Jenna Ortega is definitely the stronger of the two actresses. But Maddie Ziegler did a decent enough job where it didn't hold the movie back at all. Julie Bowen was really good, I think, in some of the very emotional scenes. John Ortiz, he has a great scene at the end of the movie with her, which I thought was fantastic. And I loved him from Silver Linings Playbook. He was in the Fast and Furious franchise. So he's an actor that I know, and I like seeing him in roles like this. So
Yes.
yeah, this movie, man, it's kind of one of those like gems that you find that you never really knew anything about, but it was talked about like I think last year at some point, like because it hit a bunch of film festivals and stuff. But I didn't really know anything about it, so it was kind of cool going into it like that. It man, it does not leave you on a high note. I will tell you
No.
that. So you better be like emotionally prepared to watch a movie like this. Um, there is a funny scene though right before, a funny scene of levity right before uh, the gut punch
Mm-hmm.
between Jenna Ortega and Julie Bowen, the mom and daughter, and where she unloads everything that she's been up to in like the last month. I
Yep.
thought that was really funny, Wayne. I don't know about you.
I enjoyed it. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, well, this sheer look of what?
And then she downed like half a glass of wine, and she's like, "All right, I'm ready to deal with it." Like it was just, yeah. She basically it was a good kind of funny moment in a otherwise serious, very serious film. Um, and there are funny moments throughout because the Jenna Ortega's character like tries drugs for the first time, a couple different drugs at a couple different moments, and both those lead to very kind of humorous moments, but also very sad moments, and realizing that her way of dealing with the tragedy was to kind of not deal with it.
Yeah.
So there's
Like,
a lot of interesting things uh, in this movie. I really implore people to watch this film. I think it's important to show, if you have teenagers, to show them this film, just to show them that you don't be like her and not talk to her like the whole point of it is like she's the person that doesn't talk to anybody about it. Even when she's with her friend Mia, they don't really talk about it very much. It's more they're with each other to escape their feelings and their emotions. So I think it's an important movie in that aspect to be like, hey, always talk to us. Always, your kids could always come to you to talk to them about these type of crazy fucked up situations. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I give this an 8.5 out of 10. It's really solid film. I didn't really have
Absolutely.
any issues with it necessarily. Just like Wayne said, it's hard to make a perfect movie. So I probably would have, if someone else was cast other than Maddie Ziegler, I would have been okay with that. But like I said, she does well enough to hold her own throughout the movie. Wayne, what's your rating?
I'm right there with you. 8.5, 9. Really, really good. No complaints whatsoever. Just anybody, just feeling for anybody that's actually had to live through that and deal with it.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those just really kind of crazy relevant films. Always going to be very relevant, unfortunately, as it seems. All right, so we went long, so I'm going to just go right into the news and notes, unless there's anything else you want to talk about, Wayne.
Nope.
All right. So, news coming up. Guillermo del Toro's stop-motion Pinocchio comes to Netflix this December. Julian McMahon leaving FBI Most Wanted before end of third season. Dylan McDermott will come in as new lead character before the season is over. Lee Daniels' exorcism film starring Academy Award nominee Andra Day headed to Netflix on a $65 million deal. Josh Duhamel replacing Emilio Estevez on Mighty Ducks as new character Gavin Cole. Chris Evans joins The Rock in holiday action film Red One for Netflix. Ghosts, The Neighborhood, and Bob Hart's Abishola all renewed over at CBS. The Lost Symbol canceled at Peacock. Stephen King novel Later from 2021 being optioned by Blumhouse for limited series starring Lucy Liu. No network has been announced yet. Percy Jackson TV series officially heading to Disney+. If is a film that'll be written, directed, and starring John Krasinski and Steve Carell as they return to team up together again. Lou Gossett Jr., Alan Kim, Kaylee Fleming, Ryan Reynolds, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and Fiona Shaw will also appear. It's set up at Paramount for a November 17th, 2023 release, so almost 2 years away still. Mortal Kombat 2 officially in development. Nick Stahl joins Let the Right One In TV series at Showtime as series regular. Ridley Scott producing Berlin Nobody with Eric Bana and Kernan Shipka set to star. Greg Russo, the writer of the new Mortal Kombat film, is going to write and direct System Shock, which is another video game adaptation. James Gunn working on second The Suicide Squad spinoff series. John Larroquette returning to narrate Texas Chainsaw Netflix sequel. Ryan Hansen and Melissa Tang will star in horror comedy Who Invited Them. Dead Day series created by Kevin Williamson and Julie Plec of Vampire Diaries ordered to series at Peacock. It's based on a comic book by Ryan Parrott. Kyle Allen takes over He-Man role in Netflix Masters of the Universe live-action film. Noah Centineo dropped out of the role last year. Kevin Costner set to star, produce, and direct in a new Western called Horizon. Joker 2 could go into production before the end of the year. Releases coming up. Murderville with Will Arnett hits Netflix February 3rd. I brought this up just because it's an interesting show, Wayne. It's a cop procedural comedy starring Will Arnett, and each episode stars a new celebrity as his fellow detective who's got to help him crack the case, except they don't have a script. So they have to come up with their own words. Sharon Stone, Marshawn Lynch, Kumail Nanjiani are some of the actors involved in that. So I'm really interested to see how that turns out. Joe vs. Carol hits Peacock March 3rd. That's the one starring Kate McKinnon and John Cameron Mitchell. Father Stew with Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson lands at Sony Pictures and will release in theaters April 15th. Pieces of Her starring Toni Collette and Bella Heathcote hits Netflix March 4th. Downton Abbey, A New Era moves back to May 20th, 2022. Deaths this week. Peter Robbins, original voice of Charlie Brown, dead at 65. Catherine Cates, Seinfeld and Orange is the New Black, dead at 73. Thierry Mugler, legendary French fashion designer, dead at 73. Morgan Stevens, Fame and Melrose Place, dead at 70. So that's our show for the week, everybody. We appreciate you listening to us each and every week. Wayne, do you have any final thoughts for this week?
No, not really. Thank you for watching and or listening. And see you next time.
All right. Thank you for listening to Now Showing with Mike and Wayne.
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hey, everybody, we're all gonna get laid.